Hello everyone. So in this video, we are going to see that what are the different provisions available to make our workloads secure onto the cloud. So we'll be discussing and we'll explore that what are the various ways, various tools which are available that can help us to provide security on to our cloud workloads. When I say workload, workload basically refers to the compute, your databases, your storage, and networking things that we are actually provisioning onto the cloud. So let's so before we actually go into the different provisions onto the cloud, let us first quickly have a look on the definition of cloud computing. So cloud computing, according to NIST, it says that cloud computing is a model for enabling convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. So if you look onto the key terms of this definition, you can find as shown in the on the screen by red color, it's convenient on-demand sharing resources. So it basically provides a framework so that any application can be rapidly provisioned and can be released with a minimal effort. So cloud computing basically provides a high level of abstraction of computation and storage model. And why it is very, very popular nowadays, because whenever we want to, whenever we think about implementing or starting any business, we have to worry about many issues like think about the organization infrastructure means the investment that occurs for setting up your infrastructure. You have to uh, think about the data redundancy, the backup, and handling the latencies issues, and data center management, and uh, enhancing the elasticity of the resources which are onto the data centers, audit trials, compliances, licensing fees. So there are many issues are to be taken care when we start a business. But when we look to the cloud model, then many of these issues are actually uh, not there, because cloud model works on the shared responsibility. So many of the things are taken care by the providers. So as a customer who want to, as a person who's going to start the business, is actually can get rid of many of the things. The other thing that makes is so popular, because if we think about starting any company, we have to uh, care for the OPEX and the CAPEX. So CAPEX stands for the capital expenses, and OPEX stands for operational expenses. So for any business, these two are the major component that need to be planned. But with the cloud computing means the capex component is almost negligible. The company who is going to start the business need to only think about the operational expenses, which is comparatively lesser at the starting phase, because otherwise the capital expenses are very high if the cloud computing is not in picture, because the company has to acquire a building, they have to build up the entire infrastructure, they have to procure all the machinery to for doing all these operations. So this is also one of the very important component that makes cloud computing so popular, and companies are migrating onto the cloud to run their businesses. So there are many players in the market nowadays. More than 5,000 player may be there, which are actually providing the cloud services. So among them, some are very, very popular, and you can see on on the screen that what is the market share. So among the top players, we have Amazon is there. This is a AWS. Then we have Azure from Microsoft. We have GCP from Google. We have Oracle, IBM. So these are the like top players who are having maximum kind of domination in the cloud market. Okay, now coming to cloud security. So cloud security is basically known as cloud computing security. Uh, Basically, it is when we talk about implementing the security, so it is basically referring to a set of policies, controls, procedures, and technologies that can work together to protect cloud-based systems, the data and the infrastructure that is actually uh, makes the cloud environment. So if we look to the definition of NIST, so always we look for the technical definition from the NIST. So NIST has made a list of certain best practices that can be followed to establish a secure and sustainable cloud computing framework. And this framework is basically based on 5 pillars of cybersecurity framework uh, that uh, that is comprised of 5 keywords, uh, which are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So what does this key terms mean? So identify basically means we have to, it basically focuses on understanding the risk and identifying and understanding your assets, the data, and the critical functions which are there, uh, which actually there that is useful for the operation of your business. Then the next is protect. It is basically to protect the critical systems and data, and it is basically responsible for implementing the security controls and policies which need to be placed in order to secure the cloud environment. Then detect basically focusing on identifying the potential risk events and how to implement the monitoring and analytic systems within the cloud environment. Then we have respond is there. Respond basically focuses on how an organization will respond to any incident, any risk. It also care and also does response planning. Recover is basically that means it is to focus on restoring systems and data after any incidents may be happening or any risk has been identified. It also care for making backup plans and make recovery procedures. So these are the security means key terms which has been chosen by the NIST to define security, and these measures basically aims to protect the cloud data. It basically aims to support regulatory compliances. It The objective is to protect the customer privacy. It also works for setting authentication rules for individual users and devices. So uh, we have a definition in hand. Now we have certain challenges are also there. We call it cloud security challenges. Now, running business on the on-premise data center and running on the cloud is actually a very different approach. And because when you are keeping things on the cloud, you are keeping data on the faith of some third party, and this can be accessed through the browser. It can be placed globally. So there are many challenges are actually visible. So the very first is lack of visibility. It is actually seen that in many cases, cloud services are accessed outside of the corporate network and sometimes from the devices which are not managed by the IT personals. So it is very easy to lose track of how your data has been accessed and by whom your data has been accessed. Since many cloud services are accessed outside of corporate network and through the third parties. So there is a lack of transparency, there's a lack of visibility. This is a major concern for the cloud security. Then if we talk about the controlling of your cloud data, uh, so we know that it is basically a third party environment. So in a third party cloud service providers environment, IT teams have very less access to the data uh, than when they have compared with the on-premise data. Uh, Cloud customers are given a very limited control by default, and access to underlying physical infrastructure is actually enabled. So control is again very limited. So security is actually to be taken care by both the players. Access to cloud data and application. Uh, this is again one of the uh, kind of key issue that basically concern for the cloud security. So user actually the users mean the cloud users may access cloud applications and data over the internet, and users can access this data from any location or device, and there's a possibility that any privileged user uh, by the cloud provider can bypass your own security controls, which is again a kind of challenge. And then we have compliances are there. Compliances are some rules and regulation which is to be followed by a certain organization. So they are depending on business to business. So compliances are to be taken care. And here, because this cloud system is basically involved a third party, so there's a heavy reliance on third party solutions to manage the compliances. And this can lead to costly compliance issues for poor understanding or not fulfilling the compliances requirement. Insider threat is again a very prominent challenge uh, for any business in all the scenarios, not only for the cloud security. So you can think of any dissatisfied, any employee who has some issues with the company, and he is actually capable of using cloud services to expose an organization to any security breach. And there are different reports have been published that revealed irregular activity of insider threats, and this is uh, about 85% of the organizations are actually suffering from this kind of threat. So we have a cloud security model is there that basically been defined in order to safeguard all the workloads which are on the cloud. So cloud model is basically a shared responsibility model. So here the responsibility has been shared. So cloud security is also being shared between the two entities. So it is a responsibility that is shared between the cloud provider and the customer. And you can think of cloud security uh, like you have a house and you want to protect your house. So we'll look into the some kind of comparison that how we are securing our house in similar way, how we can secure our cloud environment. So the very first key term is prevent. So we just beforehand we make provisions to safeguard our house, to safeguard our data. We put the locks on our doors, on we we keep windows logged. So, prevention in the context of cloud, we can do some restriction policies may be defined, firewalls may be kept there, a strong password can be used in order to prevent any unauthorized access to our cloud data. Then detect is basically to detect if something goes wrong in our house. We are installing cameras to detect if anything happening unusual. We are installing fire alarms in order to detect if something is leakage. So likewise, we have provisions to monitor your data. We have a provision to keep log records of your data to sense that something is going wrong or not. Then we have a respond. So definitely, if something goes wrong, we have to call the police. If somebody breaks into your house, if or in the case of cloud, if something goes wrong, if something happens, then there must be something that can trigger the risk event, and accordingly, uh, there must be action taken in order to react on to the situation if something goes wrong. Then remediate is basically after we have identified something goes wrong, if something robbery or some burglar broke down to your house, then we have to repair the doors, broken doors. We have to go for a better locking system so that it cannot repeat. Likewise, we need to regularly do patching. We have to identify what vulnerabilities have are left, and we have to fix those vulnerability and uh, makes our system more stronger and safer. So, if we look to the cloud security, so we have cloud security model that is basically having various provisions. So this model basically is to ensure business success. There are multi-layer security to be provisioned in order to safeguard all your data. So we have to uh, build multi-layer security in order to build to safeguard the products and services which are to the cloud. So the very first thing is the encryption is a very premier step that we take in order to safeguard our data. So encryption basically provides a user a technique at different stages so that the data can be protected. The So we have two stages or the two phases where the data can be encrypted. One is so the data stages are it can be at rest, it can be at a stored phase onto some hard disk, or it may be on transit phase when data is moving from one place to other. So we need to keep the data uh, encrypted when it is at rest, when it is stored in physical media or in any hard disk. So data at rest is not encrypted by default by all the cloud providers, but most of the big cloud providers provide this facility that even if the data is at the stored, then where they are kept encrypted. So in case if anything goes wrong, then it cannot be decoded. Then encryption transit, this is to be used by most of the cloud providers. So whenever the data is moves from across the network, the data in transit in all the movement from EC will be kept in the encryption mode. Security groups and network ACL, we call it NACLs, Network Access Control List. These are other two provisions which will help you to protect your data, secure your data. So we have cloud policies that customer can use to control access to the data, such as the access control list is there that basically serve as a subnet level firewall. And then we have a security group that can provide security at the instance level, such as the EC2, your your storage, etc. So what are security groups? Security groups basically, if I'm talking in context of AWS, so Amazon Defined Security Group, which is a kind of virtual firewall that controls the traffic for one or more instances. And we have to define security group for all the instances that we are provisioning. We have to add rules to the security groups, which allows traffic to and from its associated instances. So basically, security groups control inbound and outbound traffic from one or more EC2 instances. So we have to identify that what kind of applications are running and which ports are actually allowed to access to your application. So we have to specify the the permission to these ports which can be entered or allowed to connect to your EC2s. Then we have network ACL is also one of the different provision for securing the data. It is a optional security layer on your VPC. So we know that in the Amazon cloud we have VPC. It's a kind of network. Uh, it's a virtual boundary uh, created onto the cloud that will isolate all your resources that you're provisioning onto the cloud. So inside the VPC, we have to have subnets, and inside the subnet, you just provision all your resources, all your workloads you have to keep inside it. So the NACL is actually imposed at the subnet level, and security groups are to be imposed or applicable at the instance level. So these NACL is acting as a firewall for controlling the traffic flow to and from one or more subnet, and it can be set up with the rules similarly as we did in the security group. So what are the cloud security solutions provided by the cloud providers? So it is the entire security solution is based on three core principles. One is we have to regularly monitor the data. We have to keep peeping our data. We have to gain visibility about the operation that is going undergoing with the onto the cloud data, and also managing access. So for all these three activities or act which is required to safeguard our data is to be taken care by the tools which are available provided by the cloud providers. So monitoring data involves basically tracking and analyzing the activity. It includes collecting logs, events, and other relevant information to detect the potential security threats or any anomalies if there. Gaining visibility means understanding the cloud environment in a better way. You have to understand the cloud environment sources, the configuration. This refers to having a clear understanding of the cloud environment sources. Managing access basically defines controlling who can access what and when. It involves controlling who can access cloud resources and what they can do with them. So these are the things which actually to be taken care uh, very carefully, and this can secure your cloud workload. So coming to the very first aspect of this cloud security model, that is monitoring. So in the AWS, monitoring is to be done by the Cloud Watch service. There is one service by the AWS which is called CloudWatch. Similarly, if we talk about Microsoft, we have Azure Monitor, which is doing the same job. In the case of Google, it is a Cloud Operator Suite or a Stack Driver. So these are actually, if you look to the providers, these cloud providers, you are actually doing all things are actually available, and also using these services are almost the same way, but they are using with a different name. For example, when we talk about uh, Azure, then if you are going to provision any server onto the cloud, we call it as a virtual machine. But in the case of AWS, we are calling as a EC2. So the names may be different, but they are almost providing the same kind of feature. So we're talking about the AWS. So Amazon Cloud Watch. So CloudWatch is basically it's a comprehensive monitoring service offered by AWS that allow you to collect and track metrics and collect and monitor the log files. So CloudWatch basically helps to monitor the performance and health of various AWS resources like EC2 instances, EBS volumes, RDS instances, as well as it monitors the applications running on the AWS. So there's a very uh, uh, I should say it's a very good service that helps you to keep a very close tracking of the resources onto the cloud. Then next is the gaining visibility. So we have in the AWS we have something called Cloud Trail services there, and we look to the equivalent in the Azure. It is activity log and cloud logging. I think it is in the GCP. Cloud Trail is a kind of service that enables that auditing, security monitoring, and operational troubleshooting. By tracking user activity and API usage across your AWS infrastructure, it will do this for us. And it will also recording event as log for later analysis and compliances purposes. So this is, can be uh, done by the AWS Cloud Trial. Then we have then IAM service. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management, and equivalent to this IAM in the GCP is a Cloud IAM, and in the Azure it is something called RBAC, Role-Based Access Control, and also Azure Directory. So these are like the doing the same job. So AWS IAM is a foundational security service that enables you to centrally manage who and what can be accessed your by your AWS resources and what actions they are permitted to perform. When a user group or a role attempt to access the AWS resource, IAM checks the attached policies. So we have to make certain policies that basically defines permission that who can access what jobs. So these policies are basically checked to determine if the user has the necessary permissions. So cloud providers ensures monitoring, gaining visibility, managing access through these tools like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and IAM. So apart from this, these are the very fundamental things that need to be taken care by any cloud user. If you are a cloud engineer and if you have the responsibility to manage your cloud workloads onto the cloud, then these are very basic things that need to be taken care, like configuring your CloudWatch, setting the cloud trial, and configuring the IAM. So if you are doing all these things, then you are actually assuring that your the things are protected uh, at the first stage. And so these are the important tools which are to be used in first hand to secure your cloud workloads. So for this video, this is what I am going to discuss. Later we'll discuss some more rigorous tools and options that can be used to make your workloads secure onto the cloud environment. Thank you very much.